What's up, YouTube? It's Alex back for another Fancast Friday. Woo! Today, we're going to be fancasting the MCU's X-Men. The way this is going to happen is I'm going to do a series of videos. Hopefully, I'll do them back to back because I hate to be putting these out and then all of a sudden Marvel's like, hey, we got our cast for X-Men. I'm like, shit, I missed my chance. So, hopefully, these will be out every week. Just so you know, I am not going to be fancasting all of the X-Men, nor will I be venturing outside of the ones that I have planned. You, however, are more than welcome to fancast characters that I don't mention, especially in this video, since I'm only going to be doing two in particular. Each series of video will consist of two X-Men or two mutants that I'm going to be fan casting because there's just so many of them and I'm not going to try to put more than two. So if you have somebody that I don't mention, even if I mention them later, that's okay. Please feel free to put who you'd like to see be in the MCU's X-Men in the comments below. I would welcome that, definitely, because who knows, we might have the same choice as a character. I don't know. In this video, we're going to be focusing solely on Scott Summers and Jean Grey. And in the next video, I will do two more members of the Uncanny X-Men. And then the next one after that will be the last member of the Uncanny X-Men, and then one of the new members, and then so on. I work in the public library, so I definitely pick up and read comics or graphic novels that interest me, and I'll kind of just go through them. I mean, and the stories change all the time, so who's to say that what I looked up or what I'm aware of or what I was introduced to is the same? I'm sure someone is out there messing with the timeline right now. So, at the end of the day, Marvel and Disney will do what they think is best for their storyline, the same way that Fox did. For me, I just want good casting, good acting, good interesting characters and development, good action, and I just want a good story. Give me something that's cohesive, that's coherent. And the MCU has done a great job of doing world building, and I can't wait to see what they do with the X-Men. So because of that, I think that when the MCU introduces the X-Men or the mutants, I think they should be part of a different universe. I said this in my Fantastic Four video that I feel like they should be part of a different universe because it's been 10 years for us watching the Marvel movies, and it's been, 15 for the ones who have survived Endgame. Well, the ones who didn't get snapped and survived Endgame, has been 15 years. And so why haven't we heard of mutants or the Fantastic Four or anything like that before now? Obviously, we know why, legalities, but in terms of the movie universe, why not until now? And I would hate that people like Charles Xavier or Eric Lensher, who have been mutants for all of their lives, all of a sudden at an old age, their power is going to lock. I think that's kind of a waste of those characters. It kind of takes away from the battles that they've had of opposing sides for years. I think it just would be smart for them to come from a different universe. And I'm aware that when I look up these characters, they're Earth 616, and the Earth that we seem to be on in the MCU is also 616, because that's what Mysterio, Quentin Beck said in Far From Home. But I mean, that could be 616. He was from 833. The mutants could be from 833. Just because he said he was from there and was clearly a liar doesn't mean that Earth doesn't exist. He was a very smart man. He could have found out there are multiverses out there. I'm just saying. So I think it's beneficial for the mutants to be from somewhere else. Now, thanks to WandaVision, spoiler alert, it has been explained that Wanda in particular had access to magic or was born with magic when she was a little girl. The reason why the bomb didn't explode was because she did a probability hex, according to Agatha, to stop the bomb. And so there's, I guess, a theory that Wanda has a mutant gene. And so I think that the mutant gene could exist in our current world, Earth 616, but they never evolve. They never actually mutate. It's just kind of a latent thing that's in your DNA. Because they were exposed to the Mind Stone, it activated their mutant gene and made it evolve rapidly. I think that's a good explanation. But then the other thing is that somehow Wanda and Pietro cross universes. Maybe Wanda did it unknowingly, and maybe the parents found them amongst a cornfield a la Clark Kent. I mean, I don't know. But they could be from different universes, so that way you can keep the idea that Magneto is their father, because Eric Lensher is Wanda and Pietro's father. So we couldn't do that before because Fox owned mutants. They owned Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, which is also why we didn't hear any of those terminology in the movie so far. But perhaps they somehow crossed over and ended up in our world, and the parents they had in Sokovia found them, adopted them, and raised them as their own. That's a possibility. I think that's a good way to go about it. Easier, I think, to handle, and you don't have to sit here and try to come up with all these different reasons as to why we didn't know about it before. I think it's just simple, different universe. Somehow Wanda and Pietro came over here, or the mutant gene has been a dormant part of DNA for years, and the Mind Stone or the Infinity Stone's interactions with them sparked them to activation, and it's a hyper mutation. I just hope whatever they do, it makes sense, it's smart, and it doesn't leave us all going, huh, what? So that's all I ask. Now, about the casting characters, I think they need to do a complete restart. I personally do not want any overlap from the Fox's X-Men universe into the MCU's mutants universe, whatever they decided to do. One of my biggest gripes with Fox X-Men movies is they focus way too much on certain characters and that other characters did not get the chance to really become a character. For example, I know people love Wolverine. I know he's a fan favorite. I think he's great. Well, Hugh Jackman was great as Logan Wolverine. However, I thought that he was the focus way too much. Even in the Days of Future Past comic, he's not the one that gets him back in time. It's Kitty Pryde who goes back in time to her old body. It's not Wolverine. I mean, I get because he's a popular character, but I think that he needs to take a back seat. Maybe in this first movie, he doesn't even need to be in the first movie, to be fairly honest with you, just because of the fact that we've seen so much of him. This dude has had 3 solo movies. 3 of them. Let's put him to rest for a little while before we bring him in. Especially if people are so hyped up on him, Hugh Jackman returning, who I know said will return if Hugh got to be an Avenger. I just think that, sit down. Sit down, Logan. Sit down. Charles and Eric are fine because they're the stag heads of their opposing views. They're fine. And I would even be fine with not seeing Mystique for a while. At least not like her actual form. If we see kind of her shifting people, just to we know that she's around, I don't think we need to have like a Mystique be there. You know what I'm saying? I want to see some of these other characters who are so interesting, who we get introduced to have more stuff to do. So because of this, I feel like they should start off with the Uncanny X-Men. Most of these characters we have seen in some shape or form, but I feel like they have all been neglected. The Uncanny X-Men, it consists of Scott, Jean, Warren, Hank, and Bobby. Or Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Angel, Beast, and Iceman. Those are the Uncanny X-Men. Those are the original 5 that Charles recruited to be his X-Men. I feel like we need to start off with them first. That way, these 5 characters can actually become characters. However you feel about Scott, he is the leader of the X-Men for a long time. The fact that he has never got the chance to do that, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think it might be beneficial, and WandaVision has showed us this, that TV shows can work as part of the timeline. I think what could happen is that there could be like a mutants miniseries type situation that's ongoing, where certain characters can get like maybe an hour, 45 minutes introduction, like in an episode, like giving us an origin story, giving us some like their first episode of them being recruited, to kind of give us some background, because I mean it's a lot to try to fit into a movie. And some characters will probably get shafted if they do that. So it might be smart for them to do like an hour episode, like first Scott, Jean, someone to kind of show us their introductions. We can kind of get some background information to them. So that way the next time we see them in a movie, we have already kind of met them. And maybe the movie will start with them the first time they've been recruited. And it's also like their first mission or something. Or they could do the time displacement. Alright, I don't know. But I just feel like that might be a good way to go. Maybe not. But I think it'd be kind of cool. I'd definitely be down with way more Marvel content on Disney Plus, especially since Disney said they're going to release like 100+ new material on Disney Plus. I am down. So maybe this could be part of that. I'm just saying. So, with all that said, let me explain the way I did this casting. So I broke this down into 3 age groups. I have a teenage version, which is a high school student, and hopefully the actor playing them is like 25 and younger, to the point where they still look youthful to be a teenager. I have a young adult version, which is they're in their 20s, and the actor hopefully is also in their 20s. And then I have older, like an adult version who is like 30 plus. Even though the 30 plus may look young, that doesn't mean anything. And I'm not saying that these people are going to be playing the same character in the same like timeline. I want either you have the teenage team-up group, or you have the young adult team-up group, or you have the adults. I'm not saying that the teenager, young adult, and the adult grows up. Like, I'm not saying that at all. They're separate people playing the same character, but not in the same timeline, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, please let me know in the comments, and I will try to explain better. Personally, I think it'd be best to do the teenage route, so they can be closer in age to Peter Parker. I feel like Peter Parker, especially if they work it out where he's in more Marvel MCU movies, it'd be smart to have more people around his age. Like I mentioned before, we are getting Riri Williams, Kamala Khan, America Chavez, and Kate Bishop. And, of course, Catherine Langford was cast as a future Morgan, but who knows what happened with that. And then, of course, we have Ty Simpkins, who is a little boy, who I don't know his name, from Iron Man 3, who might be Iron Lad. He may come back. So they all could be around the same age. But who knows what will happen. So I think the X-Men could be teenagers, or they could be young adults in their 20s. I don't think we need to go straight forward to them being adults just yet, just because of the fact that all the heroes we've had so far in the MCU besides Peter have been adults. So that's just how I feel about that. Lots of background information on what I would like. So going on to the fan casting, which is what you're here for. So we're going to start off with Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, who is the X-Men's leader. I did a lot of reading just to kind of brush up, and I was like, whoa, he's been through a lot of stuff. So, Scott and his younger brother, Alex, yes, Alex is his little brother. I always thought it was weird when in the prequel X-Men movies, Alex was older, and I was like, what? Because I was introduced to X-Men because my mom loved them, but I hadn't officially watched any properties of them until X-Men Evolution. So a lot of my knowledge I remember from that show. So I'll probably mention that show a lot, just so you are aware. Alex, his brother, and their mother was coming back from vacation when their private plane was attacked by an alien ship. Their mother gave them a parachute, hoping to save them, and pushed them out of the plane. But the parachute caught on fire, and they went plummeting towards Earth. So Scott, using his optic blast for the first time, slowed down their descent. But in doing so, he managed to hit his head, which caused him to lose control of his optic blast, which is why every time he opens his eyes, boom, they come right out because of the head injury. So they both ended up in a hospital and suffered traumatic amnesia. And so Mr. Sinister, who was working there, he took an interest in both of them, but felt that Scott had way more potential. So he managed to get Alex adopted to separate them and to also make Scott more emotionally vulnerable, which obviously carried with him throughout his life. A year later, Scott woke up from a coma and he was placed in an orphanage after he recovered. He went through a lot of tests put on by the orphanage's owner, who also was Mr. Sinister. I did not cast him, but he seemed to be very important in the early part of Scott's life. So if you want to cast him, please put it in the comments. I'll be very curious to see who you cast. But he basically was the one running all the tests on Scott. And then he also put mental blocks on Scott so he wouldn't know or be aware. And he also posed as one of Scott's roommates and bullied him. Like, wild. And anytime Scott ever got close to being adopted, he would intervene. Wild. So when he was a teenager, Scott began to suffer tremendous headaches, and he met with a specialist who was, guess what? Mr. Sinister, who then gave him ruby quartz lenses, the glasses. And one time he was, I guess, on a stroll, I don't know, and he lost control of his optic blast and he struck a crane. And it was plummeting towards a crowd of people below. And of course, he managed to use his power again to stop it. But the crowd was like, oh my God, you tried to kill us. And so, of course, they were trying to take him out or whatever. So, I mean, this is the 60s. Everybody was always ready to fight, apparently, when somebody's different. So Scott ran away. He ended up hopping a train, and he met a mutant criminal named Jack Winters, aka Jack O'Diamonds, who I also did not cast. He wanted to use Scott's abilities for heinous crimes because, oh my God, you're so different, and I could use your abilities. I don't see how. Because if he can't control the optic blast, he probably can't control just how fine they could be to make it like a laser to, like, you know, blast a hole in like a vault or something. I mean, it seems very destructive to me. I don't know. I don't understand how, but whatever. But Scott would refuse to cooperate, so this guy would beat him. And I'm just like, dang, poor Scott. Y'all don't like him? Wow. But of course, Charles caught wind of this, and he and FBI agent worked together, and they found Scott. They brought him back to the school, and he was recruited to be the first member of the X-Men. And he became Cyclops. Scott, wow. He went through a lot. Like I said, X-Men Evolution was my a first official introduction to him, and he was definitely like the boy next door. So they all, of course, lived on the school. He was like the boy next door, Boy Scout type, good guy. I feel like he had like a middle part. He was a tall guy. He was kind of cool. I mean, he was kind of cool, but he was also really kind of quiet. But when it came down to it, he spoke up. He was a leader. And fun fact, he was voiced by Kirby Morrow. Rest in peace in the show. He was great. Very recognizable voice. Scott also played football, I believe, in the show. So he was kind of like a jock too. And I think he was pretty smart. I don't really remember. But he was definitely one of the older ones of the students that we got introduced to, because some of the characters who might have been younger than him were maybe like teachers and stuff. Like, I don't really know how the ages really work, but he was like maybe a senior in high school, so that's cool. But Scott, he's smart, he's brave, he's selfless, quick on his feet, he's a good leader, and a skilled tactician. But on the flip side of that, he has low self-esteem, he is socially awkward, and he obsesses over his shortcomings, which I thought was interesting because he and Reed Richards both seem to have that in common. But I'm sure that is attributed to how he was treated growing up. I mean, the traumatic experience he's gone through, whether he remembers it or not, and then what happened when he was in the orphanage, as well as in the hospital, like, bruh. And then, of course, the whole thing with Jack O'Diamonds, like, Wow. But I think it's kind of cool that somebody who is like an introvert, who probably considers himself as an introvert, is a competent leader of a group. I think that's really cool. You don't see that often. So I think that it'll be really cool to see Scott, someone who is quiet and shy, but when he's in charge, he demands dedication. He's serious. He's no nonsense. And I guess people don't like him because of this. And it just sucks we haven't seen any of that. And in the movies, we had 2 actors play him. Well, 3 technically, if you count the boy from Wolverine Origins, but I'm not counting him, even though I guess I should count him. So we've had 3 actors play Scott. The most known, obviously, is James Marsden and Ty Sheridan. Tim Pocock did play him in Wolverine Origins. We're going to most talk about James and Ty. I think they were both cast fine in the role of Scott. James Marsden would have been a really, really good choice, and honestly, he's probably still a very good choice from him now, but I don't really remember him in those movies. Like, in the first movie, I don't really remember him in that at all. And in the second one, he was in it in the beginning, he got kidnapped, and then you don't see him until the end of the movie where he's mind-controlled, and then Jean saves him. And then in the third movie, he dies. What? And we never see him be a leader. Never. And then as for Ty Sheridan, he seemed like he was not like the most popular kid in school, which is on par. Seems like on par. And then he gets to Charles's school, gets his little glasses and stuff, and then he just seems too cool for school. And I just remember being like, alright. But I like Ty Sheridan. And the crazy thing is that both James and Ty can play a character who has gone through traumatic experiences, who may be a little closed off, a little socially awkward, who when they're leading, they are good leaders, but when you're talking to them on a personal level, they're withdrawn. I have seen Ty in particular play characters like that, so I know he can do it. So I don't know why they didn't do that. I will say, I am glad that he always seemed willing, particularly in Apocalypse, to fight, even though he had no idea what was going on. So I will give him that. But it just sucks that neither one of them really had a chance to be Scott the way Scott should have been. Regardless how you feel about him, it is a fact. He is the leader. He should have gotten a chance to be an actual character and be the leader of his team. So, because of that, I was looking for actors who I think could pull off the boy next door look, the Boy Scout look, and I even considered if they were possibly punchable. You know, some people like to call Scott a punchable character. So, I was looking for that, and I was also looking for somebody who I think could play the emotional bits of Scott, as well as turning around and being very competent as a leader, brave. And I also found myself putting my fingers up to their eyes, like covering their face to see if I thought they would look good with the visor or even the glasses, since that's what Scott wears a majority of the time. So I also considered that as well. So I have 3 people. So for teenage Scott, I chose Levi Miller. I really like him, and he hasn't really been in anything that really showcases his abilities. I think it's a lot of potential, and he hasn't had a chance to really be in the forefront, at least not since Pan, when he played Peter Pan, and that movie wasn't that good. I think he was fine in it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Something like this I think would really help him to show off more, and to, I would hope, potentially help his career. He's young. I think he's like 19. So I think there's a lot of growth that could be had there. He's tall, he's cute, and I feel like that he definitely has a softness about him, but that you wouldn't expect him to be a good leader, but he is one. I think that's a good thing to know about Scott, especially when he's a teenager. So yeah, Levi Miller. So I originally did this fan casting a couple years ago, and my next choice for Scott was actually the one I chose as like my younger Scott, but before I split it into 3 age groups instead of 2. So I chose Graham Phillips. He is in his 20s, and I think he has amazing blue eyes, which you probably won't ever get to see them because, you know, obviously. But I think he could also play all of Scott too. He comes off very kind of like earnest and a little charismatic, but also somebody who may annoy you. Like when he's like in the field, he may be like, Angel, I need you to do this, and him and Angel are arguing and things like that, and you could just probably find yourself being like, shut up, Scott. And I feel like Graham could play that really well. There's also something about him that I also like, and I think that he would work really well as Scott. I just think that he could really like lean into those things for Scott, and it would really give him a chance also to kind of show off more dynamic acting. Now, for my adult Scott, some controversy. I originally, when I first did this fan casting on my blog, I chose Armie Hammer as Scott, but those allegations about his family and him are wild. So I will not be casting him, and it's sad because I think he would have been great, but apparently he's crazy, so we're not going to mess with that. So I bumped him. And when I was thinking about who could replace him, I did think about Jensen Ackles, who I love. Like, I love Jensen Ackles. I've been a fan of Supernatural since season 6 is when I first officially started watching, because I was 12 when season 1 came out and it scared me, so I didn't watch it for 5 seasons, but then I like binge watched all 5 seasons in the summer and then caught up for season 6, and I've been a fan ever since. I love Supernatural. It was a great show, but I believe Jensen Ackles had been tapped for certain characters in the MCU. I feel like that Captain America was one, especially since Chris Evans turned it down like 3 times. And I feel like later he was also tapped for Hawkeye, but he couldn't commit to anything because of Supernatural. But Supernatural has finally ended after 15 seasons, and he's open. And I think that he would be a really good choice for Scott. However, I did not officially choose him because I think Jensen Ackles has such an expressive face. His eyes... Oh my God, if you watch Supernatural, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He has such expressive eyes that when I think of covering his eyes, it just makes me want to cry. Because I just can't do it. I can't. I'm sorry, Jensen. I'm sorry, I can't do it. But if he got casted, I would be fine. I'd be perfectly fine with it. I can't. So, because of that, I chose Sam Claflin, who I think would be a good choice. I was thinking of his character Finnick from the Hunger Games, who's probably like the only one of the characters I actually liked from those movies. Scott doesn't seem to me to be as arrogant as Finnick kind of came out to be, especially in his first introduction. But he kind of gave me the same kind of vibes of the confidence when he's Cyclops leading the team. And I feel like Sam Claflin is very dynamic. He's very charismatic. He's a likable guy, and he looks great with his eyes covered. Very, very strong chin. He's tall. He's handsome. And I really feel like that he would be a really good choice for Scott as well. Plus, I think my choice for Charles, or Charles in general, will place his trust in these 3 characters depending on the teams, you know, that we choose. Levi Miller, Graham Phillips, Sam Claflin. The same version of Scott, but either a teenage version or a young adult version or an adult version. Some of my honorable mentions are, I didn't think of any teenage honorable mentions for Scott. No one stuck out to me. So if you have somebody who you think would be a good teenage Scott, please put it in the comments below. I love to hear what you have to say. My young adult honorable mentions are Logan Lerman, who would be great. Nick Robinson, who would be great. Matthew Daddario, who I think would be kind of young adult older. He kind of skews a little older to me. Drew Van Acker, who I also really like. He's been seen on the show Titans, which I like the show, but he's fine. He could do this if he got tapped for it. He's got to dye his hair. And then, of course, Jensen Ackles. Alright, moving on to Jean Grey. When Jean was 10 years old, her friend Annie was actually hit by a car while they were playing. Jean felt tremendous emotion as she held her dying friend, and it awoke her telepathic powers. And she felt Annie's emotions as she died, which is super traumatic. Pure X-Men fashion. It left Jean withdrawn and depressed, and she couldn't control her abilities, so she isolated herself. At age 11, a psychiatrist recommended her parents that they consult his colleague, Charles Xavier, because who else, who tells Jean that she's a mutant, but he does not tell her parents, and he began to treat her for several years. Charles taught Jean how to levitate and manipulate objects through psionic force after she developed telekinesis at 13, which is one of my favorite abilities, and is one of the ones I always wish I had. It's just, it'd be so great. Oh my God. But anyway, at one point, Charles even had Jean calibrate his cerebral machine. So during a session, a part of Jean's mind reached out in the form of a phoenix flamebird, and it touched Scott's mind while he was sleeping. And I remember when I read that, I was like, oh, so I guess her, like, a physical embodiment of her mental abilities is a flamebird. Is that a thing? Can someone explain? I don't really know. But anyway, so because she did that, Charles created he created psychic barriers in her mind, so she couldn't use her telepathic abilities until he felt that she was mature enough to use them, which clearly has been something that's popped up in Dark Phoenix as well as The Last Stand. After Charles believed that Jean had mastered her telekinetic power, he recommended to her parents that she join his school, which is Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, which also served as a cover for the X-Men, which, of course, her parents didn't know about, because they still didn't know that she was a mutant. Even though she was the first student to enroll in the school, she didn't really join until Charles encouraged 4 more students to join the school as well as become part of the X-Men. So while she was around, she wasn't part of the team, nor was she a student until he had the other 4, and then Jean became the 5th and only female of the Uncanny X-Men team, and her code name was Marvel Girl. Kind of cool, right? So, of course, I need to mention the Phoenix Force, because you can't talk about Jean Grey without mentioning it. So, kind of similar to the Dark Phoenix movie and how they handled that storyline.
Brace for impact!
there is a space situation, and Jean is hit by lots of solar radiation while in a space shuttle. She tried to hold it back, but obviously she was overcome by it, and then she was dying from the solar radiation. And while dying, her mind called out for help, and the Phoenix Force, which is a cosmic entity, answered her. So the Phoenix Force is considered one of the oldest known cosmic entities. It represents unborn life as well as creation and destruction. Jean caught its attention during Annie's death because her mind was so tangled up in Annie's mind while she was dying, that while Annie's mind was like drifting off to death, Jean's mind was going with it. So the Phoenix Force felt her telepathic ability and intervened and prevented Jean's mind from slipping away with Annie's. And because of that situation, the Phoenix Force has kept its eye on Jean for all these years. So because she called out, and obviously the Phoenix Force has an interest in her, it came to her in the form of Jean herself. The Force offered its hand to Jean and said it would give her her heart's desire, which her desire was to save her team and herself from death. So the Phoenix Force said it would do this for her, and she took her arm, technically, because it was her, and she fell into a coma-like state. So because of this, the Phoenix Force took on Jean's form by taking out on her memories, her personality, as well as absorbing a portion of her consciousness, and then in turn ensured the survival of the X-Men. So the Force put Jean into a coma because their shuttle had landed somewhere off of Jamaica Bay. So Jean was put into a cocoon-like thing, and her injuries were being healed. So while that was happening, the Phoenix Force, who at this point was Jean, took her place in the team. Crazy, right? So there's a lot of good information about it. I was reading about it. So if you want to know more, then you should just read it. Even if you don't want to read the comics, which is fine, just do some research. It's there. It's a lot of good, interesting information. So in the movies, Jean was kind of a little weird to me because she was never one I was that particularly interested in. Like, she's very powerful, has a very interesting whole thing going on with her, but she doesn't really interested in me that way. But we've had Famke Janssen and we've had Sophie Turner both play her, and I think they both are fine. While I think Dark Phoenix isn't very good, I think Sophie Turner was good in it. I think she did a lot of carrying that movie. I enjoyed her, and I think that she was ultimately fine. I feel like she kind of felt more at home in the role in Dark Phoenix, which kind of sucks because that movie wasn't very good. But if she had another chance, I feel like that she could have been better her third go around. But I, at this point, don't want her to play Jean now. The time has passed. Fresh start. Sorry, Sophie, you're great, but you know. The biggest thing I think with her is in Apocalypse, they kind of messed up because at the end, when Charles was asking for her help, she kind of burst into a flame and we saw the Firebird, and people were like, oh snap, so she has the Phoenix now, and that was really kind of cool. And then people were confused because if you know the story, which I hadn't read the comic, I think I read part of it, I didn't finish it, but the Phoenix Force is a cosmic entity, so why is it coming from inside of her now? Kind of very interesting. And so people were like, I'm confused. And then when the Dark Phoenix promos were out, there was a bunch of photos of her like in this flame look. It was really kind of cool, but then they changed it to a more cosmic look, so it was a very different look from how the promos were, which I really wanted the promo look more. I mean, the cosmic thing was kind of cool, but the Firebird thing looked really, really cool. And so I'm not really sure what happened there. I feel like I read an article about it, but I don't know. I couldn't find it when I was researching. I couldn't find it. So if you find it as to why they changed it from the flamey look to this new kind of spacey look, outside of the fact that it's a cosmic entity, please tell me. If that's the reason, then okay, whatever. But they kind of had to like retcon what they already showed us, but you know, whatever. And as for Famke, similarly with James Marsden, she was there. She was way more important than he was, but I don't really remember her that much in terms of standout moments. I remember some stuff from X2 when she held back the water and lifted the jet. And my thing about that, which I just thought about it just now, I'll probably mention it if we watch those, is Jean can fly. She can fly. She did not have to die. Like, honestly, she did not have to die in that scene, holding the water back and lifting the jet. She did not have to die. She can fly. But whatever. And then the third movie, the whole Phoenix thing in that is because of the mental blocks that Charles placed in her, she basically developed a split personality. So the side of her that was blocked had developed itself and was calling itself the Phoenix. So it wasn't a cosmic entity. It was like all that extra power that he was holding back had culminated into a personality, and that was the Phoenix. So, you know, whatever. The biggest part I remember of that is, I don't want to fix it. Oh man, I can't wait. Hopefully I can watch those and not have any problems posting it, because I want to watch those a bit. It's been so long. In terms of her personality, Jean is an optimist. She's very caring, she's determined, she's stubborn, she supports everybody to the point of being self-sacrificing, and I think she might be considered second in command of the team. She's really powerful, and she's considered to be an omega level telekinetic. And I personally would love to see the full extent of her powers without the Phoenix shown on screen. I feel like that storyline, the Phoenix thing, should be its own like 3-movie saga type situation. Or that could be, I mean, it'd probably be best for them to do movies, you know, because obviously you get more people in the seats. But I don't know, it might be smart for them to do like a mini series on Disney Plus, do like 10 episodes, like 10 1-hour episodes. But I guess if they want to reach more mainstream people, they'll do a theatrical release. They could do 3 movies, I guess. But I think they should really utilize the fact that Disney Plus exists, personally. But I just want to see her full, like, her powers. I want to see her fly. I want to see her, you're not always struggling with her. Like, I mean, she can struggle, that's fine, but she just struggled too much when Famke Janssen, she just was always like, I can't, this is hard. But girl, like, you were strong. Like, come on. So I just want kind of more of her being like, I can do this type situation. In the X-Men Evolution, she was kind of like, she was like the mother hen of the group. I think her and Scott were both seniors. I think she might have been a cheerleader. Was she a cheerleader? So she wasn't a cheerleader. She was actually, I think, she's a soccer player. And I think at some point she also was a photographer too. But I mean, X-Men Evolution was very much like, you know, for teens. So, you know, whatever. But she was cool. I mean, she was like the big sister of the group. She was smart. I think she's like a straight A student. You know, all the boys liked her, you know, whatever. So remember, I have my 3 actors: teenage, young adult, adult. So for teenage, I chose Sophia Lillis. Now, originally I had her as an option for a different character, but I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? I think she'll be a good Jean. I really like her. She's very interesting. She's very dynamic. She's very striking on screen. I've seen her, of course, in It, and then she was in that show on Netflix, I Am Not Okay With This, which I thought was a very good show. Sucks it didn't get a second season. And her character had a lot of ups and downs, and I feel like that she would be able to play that very well, because Jean kind of goes through the same things, especially with her being a teenager. Teenagers feel things very deeply. I mean, humans feel things deeply anyway, but teenagers seem to have like a heightened sense of their emotions, and I think that Sophia Lillis will be really good at feeling those, as well as her dealing with Jean's telepathic abilities and things like that. I think she'd be fantastic as Jean. So, Sophia Lillis as a teenage Jean Grey. For young adult Jean, I've had this choice for a long time, like when I first started thinking about doing this fan cast, and I always think she's older than what she is, but I chose Zoe Dutch. I love her. She's a great actress. I've seen her in so many things. Everything I've seen her in, I think I have thoroughly been impressed by her, and have enjoyed her. Just dyed her hair a little bit more red because that's easily fixable. But I think that she would eat this role up. I have seen her be crazy. I have seen her be stubborn. I have seen her be emotional. I have seen her be ditzy. I have seen her do so many things. She'll be able to play Jean so well. And if we did tackle the Phoenix Force saga while Zoe is Jean, she will be able to handle the version of Jean that the Phoenix Force takes on, because I don't think they need to do the whole thing where it's like Jean herself is like being possessed by this thing, or it's a split personality. Like, it's literally like Jean is gone, she's healing in a cocoon, and the Phoenix Force is there as Jean, and then of course dealing with the whole Dark Queen thing, and then when she briefly turned evil and became the Dark Phoenix and lost her mind. I feel like Zoe should be so good at that. Oh my god, it'd be so entertaining. So she would be so good. Now, for adult Jean, I have 2 choices. Originally, I just had one, and I chose Bridget Regan, who I think, just like Zoe Dutch, would do a really good job playing all the highs and lows of Jean, the emotional part of her, the kind of like mother hen, maybe a little the stubborn bit of her, and then also if we got to see the Phoenix aspect, she'd be able to do that too, because I've seen her be crazy. I think she'd be great. But she's a little older, so I want to choose somebody who's on the younger end of adult to kind of fit in more with the other choices that I chose for these characters, and for that, I chose Holland Rodan. And if you've seen Teen Wolf, her character Lydia kind of reminds me of Jean. Like, Lydia actually became one of my favorite characters on Teen Wolf, because I binged it like sometime last year during the panty. And well, I mean, it's still a panty now, but during like when the library was closed and I was at home, I binge watched Teen Wolf then, and I love Lydia. And I feel like because Holland Rodan did such a good job with Lydia, especially keeping her likable, I feel like that she would do the same thing with Jean. I mean, we've all seen the Jean memes where, oh, she's passed out because the chicken is so seasoned, it's too much for her dainty palate. Like, we've seen so many memes about Jean, but I feel like Holland Rodan would be really good at keeping her likable, where you may still kind of be annoyed with her, but it wouldn't be to the point where you're like, alright, Jean, you know what I'm saying? So I have Holland Rodan, who's like in her like 34, so she can be the younger end of the adult spectrum, and then I have Bridget Regan, who is 39, who would not be older, but not a young 30. Either way, I think Holland, Rodan, or Bridget Regan would be pretty badass as Jean. I think they both would be really, really good. My honorable mentions for Jean. For teenage Jean, I have Mackenzie Foy, Sadie Sink, Isabel Oliver Marcus, Abigail Cohen, and Morgan Turner, who could be teenage Jean, but also be young adult Jean. And then I have Lee Reinhardt and Jane Levy, who also could be young adult Jean. And then I have Alexandra Daddario and Eva Rachel Wood as older Jean. So just to recap with you, for teenage Scott and Jean, we have Levi Miller and Sophia Lillis. For young adults Scott and Jean, we have Graham Phillips and Zoe Dutch. And then lastly, we have for adults Scott and Jean, we have Holland Rodan or Bridget Regan and Sam Claflin and low-key Jensen Ackles. So that's my fan cast for Scott and Jean. I will continue with Bobby and Hank in the next video. And I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are on the choices that I have presented for you today. And if you disagree, please tell me who you would like to see play Scott and Jean in the comments below. And before we go, I do want to say, for those of you comic book connoisseurs, maybe someone can explain this to me because I was looking it up, but I keep seeing different information. And so I'm like, just like comic books, all the information is always different. Someone clarify. So I read a post that Scott is considered an alpha level mutant according to Apocalypse, but I saw something else that considers Scott to be a beta level mutant, because the way it was distinguishing it is that beta mutants, they look human, like when you first see them at first glance, they look human, but they have some type of flaw that kind of prevents them from being, that when you look at them, they're not fully human. And obviously Scott's flaw is that he can't turn off his optic blast, so he has to wear the glasses. Whereas someone like Kitty, who is a mutant, but just everything about her looks regular human, it would be considered an alpha level mutant, I guess, but Scott's a beta level. So what's the difference there? Is he an alpha level or is he a beta level? And is he only an alpha level because Apocalypse says he's one? I don't get it. I get it for other people, but he seems to have two different ones, so I'm confused. So if someone can explain, that would be great. And then I also saw something that said Nick Fury's intelligence classed Scott as a power level 7. What does that mean? I was like, I didn't really see that for anybody else. So I was like, so if you can explain, that'd be great. I would love it. Thanks so much, you guys. So thanks for sticking with me throughout this video. I know it was a little longer than I expected, but it was not as long as the original video was. So there's a lot of information presented here. I definitely found these characters super interesting by reading their backstories and looking into some of the comics that we have at the public library. And I am very excited to see what the MCU does with the X-Men. And so these are the choices that I have chosen that I would like to see play these characters. Obviously, it's fan casting. It's my opinion. So once again, please leave your thoughts and comments in the section below so you can share your fan cast. I hope that when you share your fan cast that you particularly stick to Scott and Jean, as that's who I'm talking about in this video. Please try to save some of the other ones for the future videos, because I am going to be covering ones who are probably the most well known. And if you have casting for those, of course, you can share them then. But, you know, I'm not going to police you, so share what you'd like. But definitely for Scott and Jean for this particular video. So what would you like to see the MCU do for the X-Men? Would you like to see them be brought in through the multiverse? Would you like to see them have dormant genes that all of a sudden spring forward because of the snap and the blip and the radiation from that or whatever? What would you like to see? Please tell me in the comments below. I can't wait to discuss more with you. I can't wait to see some of your ideas. This is super exciting. Like, oh my gosh, X-Men, they're part of the MCU. Now, if we could just get Sony to kind of be a little bit more flexible with Spider-Man, honestly, if they could just give him over, that would be fantastic. But, you know, wishful thinking. Thanks for watching this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to tap that bell for notifications from when I post videos. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.